Okay, welcome back, everybody, to the Run to Remember Coaches Box. Very privileged to have Kirrily Dear with us today. But first, who the hell am I? I'm Anthony Simon. If you haven't heard me before, long-time supporter of Hands Across the Water. Done, I think it's about 8 bike rides over in Thailand, one in Australia during COVID. Very passionate about it. So I'm very privileged to be talking to Kirrily today. And a little bit about Kirrily. Definitely running is not new to her, although it was probably later on or midlife, maybe. So you're a long distance runner, innovator, entrepreneur, co-founder of Run Against Violence. In 2017, Kirrily ran 1,300 kilometres from Broken Bay to Sydney in New South Wales. Really starting a conversation about family violence prevention. There's no better, I think, guest who has experienced probably what Pete's going through, or potentially right now as he's listening. So, we'll dive into a few things and what you're doing with corporates, but also within, family violence as well. Welcome, Kirrily.
Thank you, Anthony. That's a fantastic introduction. Well done. I know it's all very new for you, and I love it when people jump into things, boots and all, and have a crack at something that's a new creative process for them.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I think what really, what I love reading up a little bit about yourself and your past as as a young child from outback kind of New South Wales, the Royal Ranges, Mount Royal Ranges in New South Wales. And is that where you created this thirst for adventure or doing something that other people just aren't interested in doing or not wanting to do?
Absolutely. There's no two ways about it. I think I inherited that adventurous spirit from my ancestors. So there's a long string, a long bloodline, a long string of DNA through our family for doing things that are pioneering. But growing up in that environment in the Mount Royal Ranges, which is for people who are not familiar, it's roughly about 300 kilometres northwest of Sydney, outside a town called Singleton. That very quickly gets quite remote, and we had a family farm up there that we moved between the farm and home in Newcastle for most of all of my childhood and into my teen years until I left home. And so all my weekends, holidays, and chunks of time in between was spent out in very remote country where our neighbours were miles away, and it was steep, wooded, timbered country that I had to learn to entertain myself within, I shall say. But a child with a very wild imagination, it was the perfect environment for doing that.
Did you have brothers or sisters or neighbors that, used to go adventuring and get up to quote no good?
So I had a dog Nelson, a border collie dog, that would go everywhere with me. Yes, I'm the youngest of four. The older two tended to stay in Newcastle quite a bit. They're quite a bit older than me. But certainly my most immediate brother and I spent quality time up there having adventures together. But of course, like all big brothers, having your little sister hanging around all the time is not always, a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
I got booted out. I spent a lot of time on my own with me, my horse and dog. But also we had neighbours that were, they had boys that were a similar age. They were about 10 kilometres away, so we could ride motorbikes from a very young age. So we'd ride over to their house and go on lots of adventures together. And there was another family, a similar sort of distance away, where there was a girl. There was the only other girl up there. So you learn to hold your own very young, but certainly, yes, I just loved exploring. And one of my very early books that I still remember was a survival book, and you had to practice all the survival techniques in it, how to make a campfire and how to what do you call it, put a wound, a splint on a
Oh
wound,
yeah.
and how to build a tent out of nothing, and all those sorts of things. So I practiced a lot of that, and then yeah,
So
we'd go
you
around
learned
in.
all these things before you won the highest award of the Girl Guides
Ah,
movement.
gosh, you have done your research, haven't you? Absolutely. Golly gosh. Yes. So you can see. So that I got that in when I was 15. So this is when
Yeah.
I'm 5 and 6 years old. I'm doing this stuff. I
Right.
was like,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's gosh, I'm very impressed with your research. My parents, I often look at them and go, what were you thinking? You just let this child go running. It's like off into the bush, and it probably felt a long way away from home for me, but it's probably only a kilometre or two away.
Yeah.
But certainly it was all those skills that when I got involved with the Girl Guides as a brownie, and then I went through the Girl Guides as well, the badges, I just loved the badges. I had to acquire every badge that I could, and I got my final badge a week before my 15th birthday. So to qualify for what then was known as the Baden-Powell Award, you had to have it by your 15th birthday, and I got my final badge, which was my music badge, a
Yeah.
week beforehand. So yeah, to bring that home. But certainly all the camping badges, I didn't have too many issues with
Well,
getting
there we
those.
go. I'm sure you used some of those. Well, you needed some of those on all the adventures and extreme adventures that you did. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And
what
I feel
what
like
was
it's, oh, sorry, you go. Yep.
what was like you learnt I'm not going to say it.
NLP,
NLP.
yep.
Can you expand on that? What is NLP? I get
NLP.
tongue-tied.
Okay, neuro-linguistic programming. So
Yes.
neuro is the mind, linguistics is words. So that's the easiest way to remember it is that the conversations essentially that we have in our mind drive our behavior. So it's about changing the words, changing the way you sort of talk about things and imagine things in order to drive changes in behavior is a very rough way of doing it, describing what it is,
Yeah.
but that's, yeah.
And you studied that in your early 30s. Was that
Yes.
before or after your real extreme adventures?
That was before, which is
Okay.
interesting. I'm actually writing about all of this. You've really stepped into a space that I'm examining quite a lot at the moment, because I'm writing the book that I've been writing
Yeah.
now for 6 years, but I've really getting into it. And it's this specific topic that I've been exploring over the last few days by sheer coincidence.
Okay. Right.
But so I had a lot of success early in my career. I actually studied agriculture at university, and had a passion for marketing that led me down a path where I ended up doing strategy consulting. So business strategy, corporate strategy consulting, research, strategic research, all that piece. Very early in my 20s, I got to travel the world. I then lived overseas for 4 years. It enabled me to go and have a career overseas. And I came back to Australia, got a really great job, great paying. And then around about 30 years old, I just hit this massive dark spot in my life, a big, big trench. And it was coming out of that I went and got help, as everyone should when they're in that space. It's
Yes.
not something you deal with on your own.
Mm.
And I came across the person that helped me most was a leading exponent of NLP. So I decided to study it because it really gave me
Yeah.
language around things that I'd felt but not understood and couldn't articulate. So that led to that. That gave me, I guess, a period of up in my life. But I was running my own business. I went and started my own business at that stage, my own consultancy. And during the late, so during I guess it would have been my mid 30s. So a few years later is when the GFC hit. And I found that the stress and the pressure of trying to get a business through that, keep people employed, taking on a lot of debt in order to keep people in jobs and that sort of thing, it really was pushed me again to my extreme. And it was in response to that when I found myself back on the lounge, feeling that same depression coming on,
Yes.
the same
Yeah.
sort of mental health issues coming on. I said, no, I'm not going to go down that path again. I know what's coming. And so I decided at that point I needed a bit of work-life balance, something for me to do for me that wasn't
Yeah.
associated with the business. So I thought I'd go for a jog. I thought, oh yeah, I remember that 10-year-old girl who loved to run and loved to go out exploring. I thought, oh, maybe I could just take up jogging, and that's where it started from there.
And just I want to talk more about as you continue to jog in a moment, but
Yeah.
something that you have written on is really letting go of things that make you feel safe, right? There was a article on your website, and
Yeah.
you wrote, if we truly want to fly, we have to be willing to cut the anchor. If we truly remember, we have to cut the anchor ropes.
Yeah.
How do you suggest one let go of those things that make you feel safe or make me feel safe? How do you do that? What techniques or what things can you be sort of mapping out?
Yeah, look, there's really I guess a few different layers to it depending on the context in which that's getting
Yeah,
used. So one of the things that I've learned is that this whole idea of leaving your comfort zone. And we often say, oh, life starts beyond your comfort zone. And if you're going to learn anything or grow, you've got to leave your comfort zone. And
yeah,
there's a level of truth to that. But when it comes to doing the really big, bold things, it's really
yeah,
important to create a space of psychological safety for yourself. So to actually expand your comfort zone, to feel comfortable in the unknown.
yes,
And that when you have that, then you are willing to let go of those anchors, let go of the things that make you feel, that traditionally made you feel safe, because you feel safe in yourself. You don't need to hold things onto things, onto the past, onto
yeah.
limiting beliefs, if you feel safe and comfortable within yourself to do whatever's necessary. It's not that you know all the answers, but that when you get into that space, you'll know you'll thrive, that you'll find
So,
the answers.
so we all have a comfort zone, and it's so much smaller than it should be, right?
Mm.
And you say the only way to expand is, go outside of your comfort zone and find that new comfort zone, right? So it's expansion. Is that right?
Um, yes and no. Where I see, think of it more as an energy that comes from within the comfort zone. So
Okay. Yep.
instead of like a wizard, I was watching Harry Potter the other day, and he's, when he's fighting, oh gosh, I'm having a bad word day, Voldemort. That's the
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
nasty
Yep.
dude, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, his energy comes from within him and it goes out, right? He's got
Yeah.
his wand and there's electricity going everywhere and they're fighting. It's coming from within him and out. Also, when you learn things like Tai Chi, it's all about the chi coming and circulating and then sending it out into the world. So think of it in that sort of concept construct. So what you're really doing is you're being where you are. And often when we see a scary task or we set ourselves a big goal, we get fixated on the things we don't know. We get fixated on what's scary about it, what could go wrong, all the risks attached, all those things. And that's the conversation that drives in our head. And then we try and do battle with that. We try and suppress it.
Yes.
We try and redirect it. We try and play games with it to outsmart it. What I'm saying is that don't get fixated on what you don't know. Get fixated on what you do know.
Right.
So remember all the things that you know, all your skills, all your past experience, and like literally start ticking them off in your mind. And you'll find that that scary task stops being scary because your comfort zone, that you've realized actually what your true capability is, and that you're capable of learning, you're capable of conquering really big things. And suddenly that scary task is actually inside your comfort zone. It's not outside it. And you just go and do it because it's not scary anymore.
I
So
love
that's
that.
the idea of
Yeah.
expanding it. Yeah. So channel your Harry Potter, channel
Yeah.
your Force, channel whatever
Yeah. Yeah.
bit of sci-fi is your favorite. And yeah, that's how that works.
So yeah, just think of the tools and that we do have, and the abilities and knowledge and power that we
Mm.
do have. And is that I guess you drew from those early days in the country and your the Girl Guides and your knowledge of it, just that adventure um, vibe and force and aura within you. And at 38, from couch to 100, 1,300 kilometers, and you had this goal at 38 just to set yourself one goal of 10 kilometers. So a 10-kilometer
Mm.
run. How did you go
Mm.
from
Mm.
couch 10 kilometers to 1,300?
By doing it all the completely wrong way.
And can I
Learning
just
from
also,
it.
yeah, can I also add that 1,300 kilometers was over
Yeah.
how many days?
19. 19,
19
yeah.
days. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how many marathons is, I think I
32
had it written down.
marathons. Yeah, 32
32
marathons.
marathons in 19 days.
Yeah, 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 from the
Yeah.
couch. So I would love to say that I entered that period of my life with all the knowing that I've just shared, but I haven't. I've had to learn that through a lot of
Yeah.
failure, through a lot of very dark moments at very early hours of the morning to
Yeah.
work that out. So I really did just set myself the goal of running 10Ks. That seemed like a big stretch when I got off that couch. I had friends who were half marathon runners. You. I was thinking at the time, like, what is wrong with them? Who would ever run 21Ks? And I can also remember when I first came back to Australia, which was just before 2000, that trail walker, the Oxfam trail walker, had big
Yeah.
banners on Macquarie Street advertising this thing that 100 kilometres, people would go 100 kilometres. I distinctly remember having a conversation with a girlfriend at the time. I'm like, are they sick? Like, how do they do that? She says, oh, they have to tie, they tie each other up so they can drag each other through the night, and they do it in 48 hours. I'm like, that's humanly impossible to run 100 kilometers in 48 hours or walk it. And then she goes, oh no, the record's 21 hours. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, no. I had to go check it. I'm a big fact checker on things. I'm like, no, that's just disgusting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it can be.
So anyhow, that gives you a bit of the mental landscape. When I set my 10K goal, I thought that's huge. I had just managed to run about 3 or 4 and collapsed and back on that lounge, hot and sweaty. But I joined a running club
Yeah.
to do it, and yeah, it's sort of a lot of learning, a lot of lessons,
Kirrily,
from there.
I love how you said, you didn't have all these life lessons, and you didn't have the answers before
Oh,
you
no.
decided to do this. And sometimes, dare I say, that if you had the answers, you mightn't do it. You know, um, who
Yeah,
knows?
possibly. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
because you
Yeah.
grew into this ability and you grew into um, building that resilience. But if someone just told you outright, then you're crazy, you're this, you're that. You mightn't do it, and that's where this building layer of resilience and mindset and
Mm.
the challenges that you've had, mentally and physically prior, as as a kid growing up and stuff like that. Like it's a progress, I guess.
It is, and that's a really interesting point because the it was I loved running as a kid. There's no two ways about that. I competed in cross country, did all that sort of thing at school. And then I hit university and I found partying was way more interesting. So I dipped back into it at different times. And I really thought this was going to be just another one of those dips, there where you go in, you do it for a while, the fad wears off and you go. And I was really just talking about it as a hobby. I had tried to I knew I needed a little bit of work-life balance. Everyone kept telling me that. So I thought, oh yeah, well, I'll get a few hobbies, and running would be a good hobby because it's physical. A lot of my work, because I was working at strategy, was very mental, intellectual, so good balance. Um, and but obviously, I think obviously now, but my subconscious, my unconscious mind needed it. It wanted me to learn something.
Mm.
And when I reflect on it now, and I love Steve Jobs's expression about you can only ever connect the dots looking backwards. Um, yeah, people would say, "Oh, runners are always running away from things and blah, 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 all this sort of stuff." And I used to get so defensive about it, but I don't think I was necessarily running away from something. I was running toward knowledge of myself.
I love
And
that.
that's where the obsessiveness came, is I had to learn something. I could feel there was something I had to learn. And every time I failed, it was like the little crack in this world I'd been living in would appear, and I could see the light on the other side, and I'd have to go see what it is. And that's that adventurous 10-year-old that has to always know what's around the corner.
And
She
that's a
always
natural
has to
NLP
know.
connection, right? That's a
Yeah,
natural NLP connection of
yeah.
changing the mindset from running from something that society has
Mm.
towards running to something, running to your true self, running to your
Correct.
ability,
It's a
running
reframe.
to,
Yeah,
definite reframe.
yeah,
And I mean, you've done over 20 ultra marathons and races and all the training, and there's ultra marathons within training, things like that.
yeah.
What sort of support crew did you have around you, and the importance of people around you that you see, not only in running, but also the organizations that you founded and support now?
Um, it's interesting. This might be a little bit offhand, but I compare it to when you get a divorce. When you take up running ultra, you work out who your friends are real quick. There are
Yeah,
those you
okay.
never hear from again, and there's those that support you regardless. And ultra running has a bit of that too, because as my distances increased, there were people that would not accept what I was doing, and who at every turn told me negative things and wanted to really kind of pull the rug out from underneath me. And there are others that just, like Brad Smithers and even, all the people that have been involved with RAV over the years. And the closest friends that would come out and support me and crew me on these things were just, you discover who your friends are, that they're, and not everyone has the time. It's not a case of everyone having, if they don't come out and stand on the trail, waiting for me for 36 hours, they're not a friend. But it's
Yeah,
that mindset that, the good positive words, the encouragement, the, whatever it might be that people can offer. And it has become an absolute rule in my life, a personal boundary. And during running, I learned, again, through failure, I learned that I needed to set these really strict boundaries about who I let into my life. And I only let people in who had that positive energy for themselves. For me, it's not just all about
yes,
me, but for the world, who actually see the opportunity and who are out there doing things in their way. And it becomes really important. So one of the principles I live by is to normalize the extraordinary. So, for instance, at the moment, I'm learning to write. I've been obsessed with writing over the last few years, like I have been with running in the decade before that.
yeah,
I can now, thanks to my writing coach, confidently call myself, I can say I am a writer. Apparently I'm
yes,
okay, I am a writer. But in moving into that space, the first thing I do whenever I move into a new space is surround myself with people who think that's normal. I learned that from ultra running, is that to normalize the
yes,
extraordinary. So I'm reading really, really good books, and I'm listening to podcasts of people who I respect as writers, who know the writer's journey. I talk, last week, we even in our funny little country town, we had Hugh McKay, who's one of the big most, I guess, prominent social psychologists in Australia. He came and did a talk in our town, so I went and I interacted with him. And it's that normalizing the extraordinary, because once you get into that environment, you realize that it's part of that expanding the comfort zone, isn't it? It's not such a scary thing
yeah.
to do.
Please
Challenging,
tell
but
me
not
that.
scary.
Please tell me that's a chapter in your book or a keynote talk, or I mean, that is, I love that.
Oh, I better get the cards.
Normalize the extraordinary. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah.
.com, just go, you better get that before anyone else does on here. Now, this is this might be sort of bring up, but is this kind of your second book you've written? Because you did write a book, and I don't know if the
You have
titles are
been
the same.
digging.
So, Dare to Be Your Boldest. You lost. You spent 2 years writing a book, Dare to Be Your Boldest, and you completed it, and it was all lost. And
Yes.
tell us, like, maybe a little bit of, we can, you can smile now, which is fantastic. But tell me how you got over that, like, and about calm courage and what that means.
Oh, I've been
It
using calm
gives you
courage.
goosebumps, like just thinking about losing 2 years worth of
Yeah,
work, like
yeah.
weird, strange goosebumps.
Oh,
Tell
okay,
us
that's
more.
interesting. I've had to have calm courage even the last 24 hours. It's interesting, that principle on a different scale. You've picked out a pretty big iceberg there,
Okay, sorry.
which I smashed again. No, it's not sensitive at all. In fact, I was so happy with how I managed to navigate my way through it. Yes, and it's the same book. So here's the next edition.
Okay, great.
Under construction. Very different book though, really different book, and that's one of the key outcomes. Is that so coming off the 2017 run, people say, "Oh, when are you writing the book? When are you going to do the book?" Da, da, da. So I started trying to write the book out of pressure, not out of pressure. I mean, there's a little bit of desire, not a lot of desire, but mainly to satisfy, this sort of expectation. And I thought, well, it could be a good idea to get it all down while it's fresh. I started then, so let's say it was early 2018, and quickly discovered I'm a really poor quality writer. So in terms of being able to express concepts, understand pictures that are in my head and get them out on paper and all that sort of thing. So
Yeah,
that's put it all down for a while, decided to get into it again, started blogging to build a writing practice and to understand, get control of words, because I thought that's what it would take to write a book.
yes,
Is actually be able to, control words in the way that a painter controls paint. Gee, I was disillusioned on that one. So November last year, 2023, there's a thing called NaNoWriMo, a competition over, or not competition, it's a month-long challenge is a better word, over in America, in the US, and everyone jumps online for a month and writes 50,000 words. And the idea is to get the first vomit draft out. So I
yeah,
used NaNoWriMo last year to do it. And I did electronic backup of electronic backup of electronic backup. Well, I thought I had. And
mm,
then earlier this year, thank you, Microsoft, but I had one lot of OneDrive going for my personal stuff and the RAV OneDrive, and I don't know what's happened. And I spent a very long time on the phone to Microsoft experts that were trying to, their help desk, but one wiped out the other. And so it was, and yeah, so I went back in to pick up the draft and start working on it again. It was completely gone. Gone. No notes, like backups of backups gone, cloud gone.
yeah,
And Microsoft people tried recovering corrupt files and all sorts of things. It was just horrendous. So, and it wasn't the only thing that went, there was a whole heap of other files as well. So the first thing was acceptance around that. I had to just accept that the thing was gone. And then realizing the opportunity that was there. So I'd got all the learning that I needed to do out of that vomit draft. So I realized that what it was like to get inside a scene and start writing from perspective of scenes. And I was interested in the things that I thought I'd never write about or I didn't see as connected started popping up and were connected. I realized the enormity of the task. I started to understand issues around structure. And the importance of structure and having a really clear purpose to the writing. All these sorts of lessons came out of it. They're still with me. I haven't lost
yes,
those
yeah,
lessons. The vomit draft was going to disappear into history anyhow. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't the final draft. And also I drew strength from, so I normalized my extraordinary in terms of drawing strength from Nelson Mandela, who had all his notes and everything ripped up and by guards. Gregory, the guy that wrote Shantaram, he experienced the same thing. He wrote first draft and it all got ripped up and destroyed by prison guards.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I'm not the first person to go through this. So to normalize my extraordinary, I went and read about their life experiences, what came out of
Yeah.
it, and all of them. Even Stephen King, he would deliberately do it.
Right.
He
Okay.
would write
Fair enough.
out his first manuscript by hand and then burn the thing, you know. It's like, and I thought, well, that's proactive. I can do that too. It's just
Yeah.
fate has
Wow.
dealt me this card.
Yeah.
And so then I go, actually, so this is meant to happen because it doesn't distract me. And that's the reason Stephen King would do it. It doesn't distract you. Don't get trying and make the first version right. You get on
Yeah.
with writing a completely new story. So that gave me the space. I had to, it sounds all lovely. It didn't happen in 24 hours. But over the course of a short period of time, I was ready to make the most of that opportunity.
Yeah. Wow. And well done. I like that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Calm courage and again that theme of making the extraordinary, normalize the
Yeah.
extraordinary,
Yeah. And
sort of
calm
thing.
courage is just that. It's just relax into it. It's that safe zone. You're okay. Everything's okay. You'll learn, I'll thrive, I'll learn what I need to learn.
And
And trusting yourself and just activating
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And that was, on in the safeguard of roof over your head and at home, you're warm, you can eat, you can drink, you're
All
safe
those.
environment. But I guess
Yeah.
there's times when you were out running, whether it be from Broken Hill, which those that don't know where Broken Hill is, it's like can easily get up to 40, 45 degrees. And then there's ultra marathons where you've no doubt run through, it was sunny 1 minute and then 60 minutes later it's sleet or rain or snow and
Snow,
windy and the
ice.
temperature drops 20 degrees. Can you tell us maybe one or two extreme, it's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? How do I get over it? When you're on your own and you don't have your support crew with you,
Are you
like when
referring to
you're
a
just,
specific incident that you've got in mind? Look, um, the one that I guess I talk about most often, that's that scenario, happened in Cuyoc, on the Cuyoc Pass in the Waywash, in a remote part of Peru.
yeah,
That, which is where, it was a life-changing, potentially life-ending, but ultimately
mm,
life-changing experience.
yeah,
And it's where a lot of the things that I'm talking to you now solidified for me was during that experience. That it's amazing how, and reflection, I should say, in reflection on that sense, to understand really what happened up there and the lessons to emerge from it. One of the things that I guess I
if you could
learned.
share with those that aren't aware of, yeah,
Yeah, you
that
want me
aren't
to go
aware of
into
that,
that moment in
just,
detail? Yeah,
or just
sure.
just an overview and then how you dealt with that and because
Absolutely.
it's extreme, right? It's
It
life
was,
changing,
yeah.
potential life changing.
So yeah, it was May 2017. So I was planning to run um Broken Hill to Sydney starting on the 30th of August 2017. And I don't know, I just had this feeling. It was 9 months before I was beginning the run. I was reviewing all my training. Everything was perfect. I could have walked out the door that day and started running 9 months beforehand. I felt ready. And so I was sort of thinking, where do I take my training from here? I've got 9 months to keep my peak fitness. I was peaking a little bit too early in that sense, I guess.
Yeah,
But I just had this feeling there was something more I had to learn about myself. By that stage, I was aware that my running was about self-exploration and self-discovery. And so I designed the challenge that I thought it would take to push me to my absolute extreme. So someone that's sitting at looking at a computer going, 1300 K is nada. I'm just like, I can do that. um,
normalize it. You've normalized that.
like, yeah, that's exactly it. It's interesting
Yeah,
what happens.
you hadn't even done it yet, and it was like a park run.
Yeah, it's like, no, I do it because I've got plenty of friends that have done longer distances. I had done 860 Ks. I learned a lot through that. So I knew what my training needed to look like, which gosh, there's so much in this, but there's a vastly different to the training of my previous run. Because I was so much more confident to go down my own path with my training, which is another
Yes.
whole conversation. So I decided to devise this challenge for myself that would push me to absolute extreme. And it was 15 days, as I call it, 15 days of epic. I really need to up my marketing on that one, but it wasn't important at the time. Basically, I planned to get on a plane to Peru. I would land there 2 days before it started. I ran the Lima Marathon, got on a bus that night up to a place called Huaraz up in the northern Andes of Peru. Spent a couple of days climatizing, and then I went out to do the Waywash circuit, which is the largest concentration. It's about 4 hours outside of Huaraz, so in a very remote area. It's the largest concentration of tropical glaciers in the world, and it's also entirely configured of pyramid peaks. So a lot of people know the Paramount logo, the peak on the Paramount logo, that's in the Waywash.
Yeah.
So when we're talking pyramid peaks, that's the whole Waywash is like that. So it's 100 and the trail I did was 130 Ks of up and down between 4,000 and 5,000 meters above sea level. So you're roughly double the height and more of Mount Kosciuszko. So normally people do it in 10 to 12 days. I decided to push myself. I would do it in 5.5. And people normally go with guides and cooks and donkeys to carry their bags. I did it. Everything was on my back. Now, I grew up at sea level. I grew up, Mount Royal is 1,000 meters above sea level. It's not big. And I'd never been to those altitudes before. So there was all these things that I wanted to do it. It's one of the top 10 walks in the world. And that's how I decided to do it. And then once I came down off that, the plan was I had, I think, a day's rest. And then I competed in a race called the Andes Challenge, which is a climb to 5,600 meters, which is just above Everest Base Camp, back down in a matter of hours, then cycle and run 180 Ks to the ocean. And the race finished when you put your feet in the ocean. So all of that was happening in 15 days. And there's never a short way around this story. Day 8, the Waywash, I had the highest pass to do on my own, and the weather completely and utterly closed out on me. And it was the combination of the wind, the isolation, being out there on my own, that just triggered a whole heap of fear inside of me and anxiety. And I got up onto the pass, and I had a full-blown anxiety attack, panic attack up there, because I'd lost my way, I'd lost the trail. And fortunately, all that survival training when I was a little kid kicked in, and I went and I found a rock, and I bunkered down behind the rock and refused to move until the panic attack had passed. And it was in the mental space of trying to navigate what was going on that I realized I'd become transfixed on everything that could go wrong. Like there's a lot of things that could kill me up there in that moment. And it was the voice that came from within me that asked me, am I inside my comfort zone or outside my comfort zone right now? Because if I'm outside my comfort zone, I'm going to die. I have to bring this inside my comfort zone. And so I started just listing absolutely everything I knew about that moment. And I started talking, I was aloud going, I'm warm, I've got water, I've got food, I've got plenty of time. I plan to have extra time. I am safe. I'm out of the weather, like I'm behind this rock. I've got a map. I know there has to be a trail up here because tourists come up here all the time. The perfectly clear weather, they bring tour groups up over the Kuyok Pass. And so I started just building all of that knowledge. And then it was once I got relaxed again and feeling safe that my brain started functioning fully again. Because when we freak out like that, our brain shuts down. We get pushed down into our primal brain, and all that beautiful complex processing that we do in in the frontal lobe and in your prefrontal cortex, you lose that functionality. So
Yeah.
by relaxing, I was able to then start planning my way off that mountain, and well, I'm here. So
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you shared, that really in-depth um, and vulnerable space
mm,
that you're in, and how you got out of that. I mean, Pete potentially, I don't think he's listening to this when he's in that state now, because he'd just be, in another space. But I know that Pete's already on the run, and we don't know what day this particular you know story and your journey is going to be released throughout the challenge, and those people
mm,
running themselves. But I know Pete's already gone to some of those very, very challenging slash dark spaces already.
mm,
And
mm,
he knew it was going to happen. And he's got an amazing support crew, and and he just knows that tomorrow's another day. It's a lesson, and things progress. He's in a safe
mm,
space, and I'm sure he would be. Um, this is another technique that himself and myself and everyone listening can
mm,
really. You knew you were out of your comfort zone, but you asked the question, how can I make this inside my comfort zone? And you
mm,
listed all the positive things, as
mm,
opposed to, the negatives, and what you have as opposed to what you don't have. I think that's absolutely amazing.
mm.
A gift that you constantly have done throughout your life, really.
It is, and it is a practice. That's the thing is, the alternative, so seeing everything is outside our comfort zone, is the reflexive reaction. So that's how we're trained, particularly as women, that everything, there's a scary boogeyman around every corner when you're a girl, and everything's a threat, and you've got to constantly look after your safety. So it puts you on, and everyone's trying to get you, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and a woman, you have to fight twice, well, the stuff that we're told throughout our lives, that all
Yeah,
gets programmed deeply inside. So it incapacitates not just women, men experience it too, but
yeah,
from a female experience, talking from the female experience, that becomes quite incapacitating, so that everything is seen as a threat constantly, which is why women have much higher levels of test for higher levels of anxiety and all those sorts of things. It's not our hormones; it's the culture that we've been immersed in.
yeah, yeah,
And so it's when you realize it is a reflexive reaction, you've got to reprogram that at a very deep level. And that takes practice. So it's not that I have got down off that mountain and the next day woken up, even though it was a very sunny day and beautiful day, and everything's fixed. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I
yeah,
bet I can recognize it early. I could recognize very early when the tingles first started, and I had a different process. And now it is that self-trust that comes from that is a very different experience, to the point that I can't relate to a lot of the feelings. That's one of the challenges I'm having with writing the book. I can't remember what it felt like before.
yeah,
Back
yeah,
when I was having those issues when I was 30 and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of exploration there. One of the things that I know Peter will be focused on is breaking it down into very small steps. So it's not even the next day, it's the next kilometre, it's the next 100 metres. And at times during Broken Hill to Sydney and plenty of the other ultra marathons, when you get into a dark space with things, when you feel it really is challenging you, I focus on the next step, being literally the next step.
yeah,
And if anyone comes around me spouting numbers at me, saying, "Oh, you've only got 100 kilometres to go
oh
today,"
yeah,
whoa! Man, do
yeah,
they get kicked off real quick off the side of the road,
yeah,
like, get out of my face. My crew know not to talk numbers, not to talk future, not to talk anything like that. They know to just focus in
just
on, okay, what do you need to get the next step done? Okay, I need a drink, I need food, I need someone to sing me a song, I need a mental game. Like, we often play
yeah,
different mental games to improve my mental acuity. That's what we focus on, and you take care of that, and the rest of it will happen.
yeah. I love that. And you've building upon that, and you've mentioned the word or the acronym RAV a few times,
All right. Yeah.
Run Against Violence.
Yeah.
Can you tell
Sorry, I
us
shouldn't use
more about?
acronyms.
No, no, I think it's
Yeah.
fine. Like I let it go because I wanted to. Obviously, it is a massive part of your life.
Yeah.
Run Against Violence and
Yeah.
the community and foundation that you started. So, can you tell us about why you started it? And what it involves because it involves running, and it's the one of or the largest sort of
The
organized run
largest.
in the
Yeah.
world. Yeah, if you can tell us a bit more about that, please.
Sure, sure. So where did it start? We work, or what we do is we are leading innovation in the prevention of domestic and family violence. So that's the kind of space that we're working in, and we're focused on primary prevention. So that's the upstream prevention of domestic and family violence. So it was not part of my landscape. I grew up in a really loving family, and until 2000 and late 2012, 3 women in Sydney were killed in very quick succession by a current or former intimate partner. It happened within a few days of each other. And it was during the news cycle of that I heard for the first time about 1 woman a week being killed in Australia. And I thought it was absolute hogwash. I thought, it's media makes up stats. Someone tweeted it and whatever else it gets picked
Yep.
up.
And you
And I
are a
went on
fact finder. You're a fact finder,
I
so
do
you're
like
doing
checking my facts, as I
Yep.
said. And so I went on to the Australian Institute of Criminology to check the data and found actually it was worse. And that year, I think it was something like 80 odd women had been murdered by a current or former intimate partner. And it was an absolute wake up call. I thought there's absolutely no way. How can a country as rich as ours, as well educated, as beautiful as it is, have such a horrendous problem? I obviously knew family violence existed and stuff, but it was way over there. I thought it was a tiny little pea-sized problem that we had in our community. So that was about the same time as I was starting to ramp up my kilometres running. And I had literally woken up one morning with the desire to run 500 miles, so just over 800 Ks, all stimulated by a song, I'm sure. I don't wonder what it does actually feel like to walk 500
Yeah,
miles.
yeah.
And
That's right. Cool.
and so through actually it was a client of mine I had, like I said, running my own business strategy consultancy. One of my clients was a white ribbon ambassador, and I had never noticed the stuff around the office before, and I walked in and went, what is this white ribbon thing? And
Yeah.
so we had a really long chat that day. He introduced me to people, and in November 2014, I decided to do a charity run for White Ribbon. My intent was to run from Walgett, which is in the northwest New South Wales, to Tamworth and finish in Forbes on White Ribbon Day, the 25th of November. 860 Ks over 12 days, so about 20 marathons in 12 days, and call it quits, raise a bit of money, talk a bit, raise a bit of awareness, and tick my box, I'm done. So it was 2014. And it was during the course of that run, so much happened. First of all, it was the hottest November in 57 years. Talk about a newbie era. Most of the days are above 40 degrees.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely treacherous. But that brought out the best in people, and it brought a lot of people out to support me, and those just random strangers coming up and telling me their stories about what they'd lived through. It was the biggest wake-up call for both Brad and I. And coming out of that, we founded Run Against Violence. So we talked a lot to police and support workers and that sort of thing afterward. And they said the biggest challenge they had was engaging the broader community in conversations about family violence prevention. So they'd have events, and it'd always be people from the sector or people with lived experience. 1 degree of separation from those people would turn up. So we said, well, running's perfect for that. Running community is huge. So let's start use running as a conduit for those conversations. And that led ultimately to me running Broken Hill to Sydney. And in connection with Broken Hill to Sydney in 2017, we ran the very first Run Against Violence Broken Hill to Sydney Virtual Team Challenge. And that event has continued and is now the longest and largest virtual team challenge in the world.
Fantastic. So up to 20 people over 19
Yeah,
days to replicate your first one.
yeah, yeah,
And that continues. That's brilliant. I
yeah.
mean, do you think there's a possibility of getting you on a bike one day and riding a mere 800 kilometers, or maybe
Peter
I,
Baines will
I,
be listening to this, and
I
Claire.
know I'll tell you something, Kirrily. There has been a gentleman that, in unison with a ride that was 800 kilometers, he got up and ran the
Yeah,
100 kilometers each day over 8 days whilst everyone
yeah.
else rode. So maybe you can just run it and everyone else can ride it. And yes, Claire
So,
and Peter are listening.
so a couple of things on that. It's Greg Wallace is
Yeah,
I remember his original run, and he's been a fantastic
yeah,
supporter the whole way through. And I retired from running, ultra running, in 2018, 19. And so I haven't run an ultra marathon since. I've only run a few marathons since, because
yeah.
I kind of fell in love with my mountain bike.
Ah, okay. Well, there we
So
go.
I know. This morning I haven't been out for a run. I've been out for a ride. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, so there might be the opportunity to be doing that at some stage. But no, it's the running community continues to be, and RAV's now beyond the running community. A large percentage of the people who participate each year
yeah,
are walkers, and we have age ranges from 8 or 9 years old through to 85. So it's a fantastic whole of community event. And emerging from that is our new enterprise that we've just started this year. So one of the challenges has been in the community is the fragmentation of effort. So you'll see this, you'll have your rallies of against, violence against women, and
yeah,
then there might be a bit of education here and a bit there and a bit there and a bit there and a bit there, highly fragmented. So we're now playing a leading role. We've created an organisation called Click Collab,
Leap
which is
collab.
about
Yes,
clicking all the bits in together within the primary prevention space, at a community level, and helping build communities where family violence can no longer live. So that's keeping me quite busy. So maybe not enough
yeah.
time to train on my bike to
Okay.
ride. Sorry, 800 k's.
My brother has this thing. It's just he has this saying. It's just like riding a bike. So
I just like
just
going
tap
for a
over.
run.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
My
no,
brother decided
hopefully.
to do many years ago, prior to his 40th, he decided to do the Marathon des Sables, which
Oh,
is,
right.
yeah, through the
Yeah.
Sahara Desert, and
Oh, brilliant.
had never even run a half marathon. But yeah,
Brilliant.
there's a
Brilliant.
story in that as well.
And
But
how's
yeah,
his relationship with sand now? Like, can he look at sand and
oh
still
yeah.
like it, or he just goes, "Get me out of here"?
He does. He walks on sand every single morning, but
Wow.
he's lost a lot of toenails and done
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of exciting things throughout his life. And for his 40th, he actually jumped on a plane, flew to Alice Springs, and got off and ran to. He just wanted to be on his own, and he
Yeah,
was with
nice.
one of my brothers. Got off the plane and
Yeah,
just ran to Ayers Rock and camped.
nice.
Went around the fence and
Beautiful.
ran around the rock. Didn't book any accommodation. Just to do. He is a bit of an extreme.
Yeah,
Not as
yeah.
extreme as you as
Oh,
well.
it's not a comparison. It's but
No,
I did the same for my 40th as well. Like, I just two girlfriends and I, because everyone's going, "Oh, you're gonna have a party, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do it." It's like, I
yeah,
never enjoy my own parties. I'm too
no,
busy worrying about what everyone else is doing. And
yeah,
so two girlfriends and I ran the full length of the Great North Walk, which is a 250-kilometre,
yes,
60-kilometre trail on from Newcastle to Sydney, New South Wales, and bush trail. And we became the first women to ever run that trail. So I thought, well, that's okay for my 40th, I think. I'll
that's
tick that
brilliant. I
one.
love it. Well, just before we
So,
finish,
all
how can
right.
people get in contact with you and read up more about what you do?
Yeah.
And maybe after that, just a message for Pete and all those that are running, whether their 60-kilometer challenge this month.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so two
Brilliant.
things. Where can they get in contact with you, and
Yeah.
message for Pete and others?
Yeah, absolutely. So where they can get in contact with me is insideaboldmind.com. I've got my little newsletter there that every now and then I share about what's going on in my mind and what I'm learning about the process. At the moment, the big focus is on getting this book written.
Yeah,
And also that's where I do all my keynotes and everything else. So that's a great place to get me along to do workshops and keynotes, etc., within businesses. Um, Honestly, every day, the most important thing on a big, long, multi-day challenge is to arrive awesome at the end of each day. So that's the thing that I focused on whenever I was doing multi-day. So nerves and fear and worrying about being good enough can drive us to go out too hard. So we burn up a lot of energy and effort worrying about things. What you need to focus on each day is just to arrive awesome at the end of that day, ready to go for the next one because you've got it back up. So taking the time, drinking, eating, relaxing, doing it just one step at a time, doing it at your pace, doing it your way, because it's the only way you can get to the end of the day and feel ready to go on for the next day. And you always want to finish on the high. So there's
yeah,
that, and just breaking it down. Like anytime your head starts drifting to those bigger numbers or where you've got to be or how you've got to be and all that sort of stuff, just try to switch it off and just come back into your body and focus in on all the great things that are happening right there and that are working for you. Your legs are moving, or you're feeling okay. Like every step matters, and just keep present to your own body and what's going on, one step at a time, and the steps add up, and you're there.
Oh, Kirrily, I love it, and I like that. And those that are listening, Kirrily, just sort of shrugged her shoulders and said, one more step and another step, and you're there. I like it. I love it, and it can be that, bring it into your comfort zone. I love it. So thank you so much for sharing your insights, your really personal challenges, and open up how you dealt with those things. Um, I encourage everyone to maybe share this podcast,
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
to have them, really engage with Hands Across the Water, and how Pete and what Pete and Claire and the whole Hands team are doing for the kids in Thailand over the last many decades. And if you want to support Pete, go to Hands Across the Water. Grab a ticket, grab a kilometer. You can buy a kilometer or two or three and be in the draw to win some amazing prizes and maybe some cash as well. So yeah, and again, Kirrily, I thank you so much for sharing it. I got so much from listening to you. Thanks again.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me, and yeah, go Pete.
Go Pete.
Go
Cheers. Thank
Pete.
you.